Hey guys, what's going on? This is Brian again with Standing Strong for Marriages, a YouTube channel dedicated to helping folks sort through what they could do after a situation of divorce or marriage separation. Today I'm going to be talking about a couple things. One is marriage covenant? I referenced on another video when I did a book review of David Instone's Brewer book on divorce and remarriage in the Bible. That author tended to prefer the idea of marriage more as like a just a business contract. You know, it's something that two people sign on to, they agree to, and if either party defaults or doesn't live up to their end of the bargain, then you know, it's a done deal. It's something that can be walked away from. For all of you guys that are just, and ladies, going through marriage situations that are broken, hurting, and you're just trying to sort it out, my heart goes out to you. It's a tough situation, but I always try to bring some content that helps people think about what is marriage, why is it important, is it worth sticking around for, is it not? There's a lot of competing opinions. This is some verses on marriage from the Bible. This is going to come from the Old Testament. Malachi, this is 2:14. It says, "The wife of thy youth, thy companion, the wife of thy covenant." Also, Proverbs 2:17, the adulteress goes on, it says, "Leaves the companion of her youth, and she forgets the covenant of her God." I think this is always one interesting thing when it comes to Christian marriage that is different than secular marriage, is that it's not just two people, it's three parties getting involved. It's, you know, the husband making a commitment to God and to his wife, the wife making a commitment to God and her husband, and so it's really three parties involved. I think that's one interesting thing. So that was from Proverbs 2:17. This next one is Ezekiel 16:18. It says, "And I swore an oath to you, and entered into a marriage covenant with you, and you became mine, declares the Lord." Now this is God talking about the covenant that he made with the Israelite people. So it's kind of his him speaking about his own marriage. Sorry, this all the honking. It's kind of coincidental. This is the culture here when people get married. They get in their cars, they get their whole parade going on. Maybe you guys can see this. Oh, yeah, no, this is something different. That's something different. But all the same, this is what people do when they get married. They get their whole crew together and all their people, and they get a big line of cars, and they go through the streets. And I think that was more politically motivated. That's okay. It's all good. So, moving on, Malachi 2:13 through 16. It says, "The Lord has been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth. She is thy companion and the wife of thy covenant." It says, did not he, God, make them one? And then he goes on, that famous verse 16, "For I hate divorce." And God talks about that. Anyway, so I grabbed some of those verses just from a video that I saw this week. It came through my feed. It was really about a woman who, it was interesting. She gave this presentation a few years ago at a marriage restoration conference. Her story was basically that she married a man that was previously married, and she, not just her, both of them ended up coming under some conviction that the relationship that they were in was not honoring to God, that it was adulterous. These people had been together for 17 years, and you know, this is even hard for me to really think about, that they decided to call it quits. And the reason really was is that they believed 1 Corinthians 7:11, it says, if she departs, speaking of a wife, if she departs, let her remain unmarried, or else be reconciled to her husband. Now the thing that these two people thought the problem was their relationship was that it wasn't given an opportunity for this man's first wife to follow through with this verse. Yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, I'll put it in the description. we talk about a lot of this stuff because there are these verses that seem both clear and troubling in the sense that they're so countercultural. I'm talking about the verses that say that it's possible to be in an adulterous marriage. And it's so weird because it's just not how our culture thinks, at least, the Western culture, where I'm from, a lot of things like I mentioned before, Tom Leykis show, just what a lot of people are saying out there. And well, I guess what I'm trying to say is that taking marriage really seriously in the way that the New Testament does, and the way that Jesus did when he spoke about it, it's just weird. It just seems kind of almost weird in our ears to think, what's the big deal? I mean, why wouldn't, if a relationship doesn't work out or if people aren't happy, why not just move on? Why not just say, okay, I mean, I learned a lot. Maybe I chose the wrong person. So okay, it's over, it's done with, it hurts, yeah, but let's just keep it moving. And, that's not really what the New Testament teaches. It does talk about the potential of getting into another marriage or relationship that would be adulterous. And I think that's just really interesting. People will say, well, what's the big deal? And I guess my thought this week was, there's definitely people that have shipwrecked their faith. Paul talks about that for sure. Depending on your religious tradition, your theological standing, people will have different views on the permanence of salvation, the unshakable nature of a person's salvation once they have come to Christ. And there are some controversial verses where people have basically had to say, well, you know what, if a person can shipwreck their faith, or any of the verses that seem to say that they could, lose their faith or no longer be welcomed by God, would in their view have to mean that they were never in the kingdom in the first place. They never really belonged to God. It was just a fake out. It was an emotional thing. It was, they thought they were in. It was, whatever, but God never really did that regenerative work. That's all up for debate, I suppose. Definitely people discuss these matters. One thing I would say is that it's just really interesting that getting into something as serious as a long-term adulterous situation, I think could just have serious implications as far as what we're able to do and what we're not. I'm not saying that to judge anyone. I'm not saying that to, say I know your situation, or even necessarily if what I'm implying is 100% the truth. But it sure seems like getting stuck in sin can have kind of a downward spiral effect on us, that if we can't figure out how to overcome some of those things, and in fact, God says, one of those verses that I mentioned in another video was that, those that belong to Him cannot go on sinning, that He's going to continue to help refine us and refine us, maybe not to the point of absolute perfection, but that we're going to see upward progress, that we're going to see continued levels of sanctification, that things are going to continue to, we're going to grow in godliness and holiness. I think making a big time, legal commitment with somebody, financial, emotional, sexual commitment with somebody, in terms of going all in like that and not really knowing if you're free to do that or not, is a huge question, and I think one of the things that I try to do on this channel, and what I'm trying to do in my own life, is just take pause and think about, well, marriage is a huge deal. Letting someone in your life is a huge deal, into your finances, into your bedroom, into your mind, into your emotions, into your future, if you're going to have kids with them, into really the rest of your life, because you're going to be involved with that person for the rest of your life. When your kids get married, when your kids go to school, when there's finances, when there's things that come up, you're always going to be co-parenting with them. Hopefully, if they're in the picture, at least you could try to do that, and that would be the best situation for them. But whether you stay married to that person or not, if you have kids, they're kind of in your life for the long haul. And these are huge things to consider. I think everyone knows that, but we can get lonely. We want to meet people. We want to, maybe have kids, and the clock is ticking. We're thinking, let's go. Let's get it going. Let's not waste any more time. And while that can all be true, I think some of the things to think about before getting into a marriage are verses like this. So I want to bring it up. That's all I got for you guys today. We'll talk to you later. Bye.